Uh, First of all, just we're going to be recording the meeting. So Tamila has started the recording. Thank you very much, Tamila. And we have set this webinar up today on a topic which is around the subject of transforming lives and real stories of personal and professional growth. And of course, this is an opportunity for us, which as I explore this domain, and I've been exploring it for many years now. I started my journey in 2010. We'll hear from our speakers how their journeys have evolved. But what has become apparent to me over the years is that each time we hear stories of how we see the world, how others see the world, we learn something new, because something which is the foundational aspect of the work, the work that we do, and I and our speakers will touch on that as well, is that we have, of course, our way of seeing the world, our structure of interpretation, which is unique to ourselves. And this gives us, of course, the opportunity to be able to learn when we are open to listening to others, to hear their stories. And of course, we can see our way, which is immediately apparent and obvious, and we see that, of course, as the truth, and often we get caught in our truth. And the invitation, of course, is, as we explore this, is to take a step back and to have the opportunity, the gift, to listen to where someone else and how they have navigated their journey, and hear what way they have chosen to engage in the changes, the transformations, etc., that arrive, sometimes invited, sometimes uninvited. And of course, we can then see new possibilities and, of course, open ourselves to the idea that our way is not the way, but there may be other ways as well that we may be able to engage with. So I'm delighted that so many of you are joining today. And I'm delighted that to welcome our speakers. So we have with us today Luciana Capobianco, who's a PCC integral coach, and she started her CFD in 2022 and then went straight on to complete her PCC in 23-24. We have Kumeshni West, who's an integral coach as well and an entrepreneur. She started her coaching journey many years ago, a year after I started my coaching journey in 2011. With an MBA coaching elective, took a little bit of a break and then completed our CFD course in 2023. And then, of course, we have Flora, who is also a PCC integral coach and a holistic well-being expert, in addition to her day job at UBS. And she studied CFD ACC back then in 2016, and then our PCC course in 2021-2022. Of course, each of them will tell us a little bit more about their stories and about their evolution of their journeys. But before we get there, what I would like to do is just to run through what we are going to be doing today. Of course, we're going to I will give you a little bit of a background on Center for Coaching initially, just a few slides to kind of set the scene. Then we're going to spend most of our time hearing from all our speakers, one after the other, and that will take us to the top of the hour. And I will then be asking some questions of the speakers, and then we'll open it out to Q&A. So please make a note of questions that are coming up for you, because there will be an opportunity for you to be able to share those and for us to be able to open out the discussion to everyone who is here. And then we'll spend 5 minutes closing to finish at 6:30. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And clearly, we're not going to spend much time on PowerPoint, but there are a few little slides that I do want to share with you. There we go. So hopefully you can all see my screen. There we go. So the first phrase here on this slide, evoking excellence in yourself and others, is something that spoke to me when I started my coaching journey, and it really engaged me in the way in which I, at the time, was working with those who were in my department that I was heading up, and working with people in that way to notice what was the impact of the way in which I shifted the way in which I engage with people, because I was heading up a commercial function, and I saw the impact of being able to engage from a different space and evoke excellence in both myself and others as I was living and leading with more meaning and purpose, and I was engaging with my team in this way. So that was where I started my journey in 2010. And it took me a few years of discussion with Janine and her partner at the time, Craig, who started the Center for Coaching 23 years ago at the University of Cape Town's GSB, to say, well, there's an opportunity to bring this work to Switzerland. And that we started 9 years ago near Geneva. And I then took that up with Michelle and spearheaded the start of the Center for Coaching, as many of you have engaged with over the last now 9, almost 10 years that we have been working together. What do we do? So we do, obviously, a lot revolves around the teaching. And of course, and the core of our activity is around training professional coaches. This is what we're going to be talking about today as well, sharing some of the stories around that and our journeys through the initial programs of Coaching for Development, or the professional coaching course. In addition, we realized quite early on that coaching in a leadership environment is excellent, and there are other conversations which are important as well, conversations that matter. And so we designed with organizations our leadership conversation series, which covers things like not only coaching, but also alignment, requests and promises, feedback, having those courageous conversations, rebuilding trust or mentoring conversations, the conversations that matter, and building a leader's capability to be able to do that. And of course, we also, in addition, with this wonderful group of coaches that we have worked with over many years, we provide one-on-one coaching, we provide team coaching and group coaching, and of course, we also work in a consulting space with organizations to build coaching or mentoring cultures and in-house leadership development. Integral coaching is different. Why? Because we not only look at how we're thinking about things, but also, and it's something I invite you to pay attention to as we're going through this today, it's also around the emotional and the physical aspect, because of course, if we want to enable sustainable change, we need to engage with all our centers of intelligence in a way which helps us to be able to build the competencies that we need to ensure that we have that sustainable change that remains over time. And we will be going into that in more depth and detail as we go. And of course, integral coaching is different. Why? Because often we tend to want to focus on the problem, and our focus over the years of training that we do with our coaches and ourselves is to focus not only on the problem, but we focus on the person, how the person engages with the problem in order that the coachee or the person on the receiving end or the team on the receiving end is able not only to solve the original issues, but are better equipped to solve future ones. So that's just a very brief outline of what we are up to at the Center for Coaching. And now what I'd like to do is, without any further ado, is to introduce our first speaker today, who's going to be Luciana. Luciana is going to be speaking to us around that notion of challenges that we all face, whether they be personal, professional, a mix of both. Changes in our life are inevitable, right? And Luciana is going to be sharing how coaching has helped to cope with trials, tribulations, shift perspective, etc., and perhaps come with some practical elements in terms of how this has supported her. So before you dive in, Luciana, please share a little bit about yourself. And then, of course, we'd love to hear what you have learned and how this has helped you to navigate change. Over to you, Luciana.
Thank you, Daniel. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Switzerland. My name is Luciana. Like I said, I live in Switzerland, but I'm originally from Argentina. I'm a mom of three boys. And today I'm very honored to be here because my experience at CFD is one that I hold very close to my heart, and one that marked a before and an after in my life, and the reason why I'm honored to be here today. So the story I want to share with you is one that dates back to before I joined CFD, and I was going through changes. We all face changes, professional, personal, or a mix of both, and they come accompanied by challenges. Sometimes they are effortless, and sometimes they are grueling. For me, these challenges brought uncertainty and self-doubt. But everything changed when I discovered the power of coaching. So today I want to share how CFD helped me cope with these trials and tribulations, shift my perspective on life's hindrances, and navigate change in a more present, more responsible, and more realistic way. Before starting CFD, I was traversing a quite demanding phase in my life. My husband and I had been separated for nearly 3 years. We were working things out, trying to get back together. I had recently returned to Switzerland, and I was struggling to find motivation in my job. And to make things even spicier, my eldest son became a raging teenager in the blink of an eye. These ordeals left me feeling stuck, unsure of how to move forward or how to regain control over my life. When I turned to coaching, I found a space to explore my thoughts, my feelings, my fears without judgment. My coach helped me uncover underlying beliefs and recognize obstacles I was placing in my own path. So this process turned challenges into opportunities for growth. And perhaps you're wondering how I managed to do so. So there were several techniques that were very useful, and they were instrumental in my journey. So a simple example would be I focus on my breathing during trial and difficult circumstances, and they help me stay calm and they help me stay centered, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Being conscious of my listening skills allowed me to connect more deeply with others, enhancing my relationships and communication with others. And lastly, goal setting provided me with clear direction and actionable steps, helping me break down challenges into manageable tasks and stay focused on the present. All of these techniques were achieved by self-observation, a lot of self-observation and practices that were very effective for me, that I still use till this day, and that I could not live without. So yeah, coaching helped me really shift my perspective, allowing me to see obstacles as detours and not as roadblocks. And perhaps what this means for me, it means staying with myself, like constantly doing check-ins with myself, assessing my responsibility in every situation, and permanently bearing in mind that everyone has different structures of interpretation. That was really a breakthrough for me. So it allowed me to improve my relationship with my son, to see more clear what I wanted out of my job, And yeah, coaching provided me with invaluable tools, like active listening, not taking things personally, and recognizing my blind spots. So my son is nowhere near finished with his adolescence, with his rebellious adolescence, and I have 2 more kids approaching adolescence. So yeah, I still have a long road ahead of me. However, the way I deal with these situations and with these challenges has made a huge difference for me. Coaching played a very impactful role in the way I face challenges today. I'm not so easily shaken. I'm not so prone to blaming myself. There is less desperation and despair, and communications and expectations are clearer. So for those considering coaching, or for those who have already decided to embark in this beautiful journey, my invitation is to embrace the process. It's not about quick fixes. It's about long-term growth. Be open, honest, and ready to face yourself. The journey is challenging, but the rewards are immeasurable. I hope my journey inspires you to explore the power of coaching in your life, whether as a coach, as a coachee, or both. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Luciana, for this. Yeah, no, lovely to have lots of questions, of course, which I'm going to hold on to. And please, likewise, hold on to your questions, because, of course, it's very, it opens up again. And, of course, it resonates a lot because we also have teenagers that are evolving in life, and how we engage with those who are closest to us is obviously also very indicative of what triggers us as well in our lives. So I find that always inspiring to hear stories of how you are using those to engage in a more calm, coherent, and grounded way, which we always need to come back to. So thank you very much for that. And I'll come back with some more questions when we've heard from the others. So now I'd like to hand over to Kumeshni. Kumeshni, I have the pleasure of introducing you, and you started your coaching journey, as we said, in 2011, which ignited your transformative journey. And then it took you a little bit of a longer time to come back to learning coaching or starting the CFD course, which you then started in 2023, but that became a cornerstone and anchor during times of significant change. And so once you've again briefly introduced yourself, we'd love to hear, we're very curious to hear more about how that became a cornerstone and anchor for you. Over to you, Kumeshni.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you to the CFC team for giving me this opportunity to share my journey of coaching. So my name is Kumeshni. My friends call me Kumesh. I am South African, and I now live in Zurich since 2022. I have a background in clinical occupational therapy, executive education, and most recently became an entrepreneur in the AI startup world. And I know that might be mind-blowing, but it was a discovery actually that came through coaching. So as Daniel said, I have a long history with the Center for Coaching, a relationship that began in 2011 when I did my coaching elective it was during the MBA at UCT's Graduate School of Business. And I chose to do the coaching elective at the time because it aligned with my plan to move back into the healthcare industry and help some of the leaders to lead their teams more effectively. I was on the receiving end of bad leadership, which led me to leave the healthcare sector. So I was really hoping to go back in there and help. And fast forward a few years, I found myself leading the executive education team at UCT's Graduate School of Business. And I ended up working very closely with Janine and her team to accredit and promote the CFC courses like the ACC and the PCC and the leadership conversation. At the time of being in this leadership role at the GSB, I found that I had many requests for women entering into their leadership journeys. And women empowerment has always been a huge passion for me. So they had requested support and mentorship. I also had found myself building a team in exec ed and wanting to lead very authentically and really ignite and bring the best from my team to the foreground. And that's the first time where I really tapped into my coaching skills, my active listening skills that I built during my elective. And of course, I didn't have the full suite of skills that I have now and the depth of coaching skills I have now, but it certainly helped me to fully embrace my leader as a coach role. I knew that someday I would deepen this knowledge of coaching. I just didn't know, I didn't have an idea of when that would actually happen. So what I'm about to share with you is my journey of how my new story begins with CFC. And that happened when my husband and I moved to Switzerland, and we decided to have this journey and this adventure together. And I really found that after a year of living in Switzerland, after struggling to find a job in the area that I thought I was really skilled in, I felt super confident in, I felt like I was going on many Tinder dates, trying to find friends and find my own tribe here. And I also found myself struggling with learning a new language, which is German in Zurich, which you don't often hear on the streets of Zurich. So I was really struggling with that and finding myself in a space of really being uncertain about what was next. My sense of self was being shaken. I really felt like my value of what I could bring into the education industry was just not being seen. And that seed that was left many years ago, it was 12 years then, started germinating even more. And I could feel like this emerging depression starting to happen. And I decided that the best way to navigate this is I needed an anchor and I needed to learn something new. And I really wanted to do something very meaningful. And of course, I contacted Janine. I had a wonderful conversation with her, and that's how I began my CFD journey, my coaching for development. So my journey was a journey of enoughness, really finding how I can be enough with where I was at, the power of possibility. In coaching, a large part of our coaching process is in the conversations that we have of, what else is possible. And I became more curious about my own journey and what else was possible for myself and how I was going to navigate these muddy waters that I found myself in. I was very grateful that I ended up getting a coach that was doing PCC at the time. Tsitsi helped me to also navigate these muddy waters. And one of the things that I found when I was coaching my coachees, when I was offering, so one of the things that happened was a lot of my coachees were somehow also in a transition phase and in a phase where they were also navigating a whole lot of change. And the conversations and the depth of the self-observations that I was offering them and the practices, it was really aligning with where I was at. So I went on my own journey of exploration, igniting my own possibilities, really opening up and expanding my structure of interpretation of who who I am, what I am able to do, and not actually sticking to, I can only do one thing, because that's what I know I'm known for. And it really made me think about the danger of the single story. And you might know this from a TED Talk that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie so beautifully presented. And her talk was really about multiple perspectives and how, not creating stereotypes and robbing people of their dignity. And I use that, and I want to leave you with that as I end what I'm about to say, is that we also create a single story about ourselves sometimes. And I got stuck in that single story that I had created for myself. I had to do work or find work in the education space. I had to find the same kind of friends that I had, the same kind of meaningful relationships. But what I found as I immersed myself more and more in my journey, my coaching journey, is that I was able to allow myself to have a different perspective of who I am in this world and what else I could do. And that's how I ended up becoming the COO of a Swiss startup. And it was a tech startup, an AI startup, and it was actually quite daunting when I stepped into that role. But I think from all the coaching that I had, learning more about feeling the somatic aspects of really just immersing myself in how I felt, did this feel good for me? Did that help me to step into this new world? So yeah, I believe that we all have multiple stories in our lifetime, and we will all live many, many different stories. And I'm very grateful that I had the Center for Coaching help me discover that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kameshni. And of course, this is fascinating, and about that notion of a single story where we locked into that and seeing, what else might be out there. Can we start to take that step back to explore and sense into? I love what you were talking about also, because we get so locked into our head, right? Sometimes when we can say, okay, how does this feel somatically for me, which is a beautiful invitation. So thank you very much for sharing that story, Kameshni. And of course, if you have that reference to the TED, I'm sure others would be delighted to also watch. So if you can pop that into the chat in the meantime, and I'll come back to you with more questions after we've heard from Flora. Right. Our final speaker this evening at this point is Flora. So Flora has her background, of course, in PCC, holistic and holistic well-being. And she's going to share a story about how coaching has changed her life and the direction of her career, because when we met, Flora, you were not in coaching at all. I remember very clearly somebody coming and arriving with a very finance structured outlook on life. And the Flora that we have with us today is, there's a delightful shift that has happened over the years. And as you said, leading a purposeful life. So after you've briefly introduced yourself, of course, we're very curious to hear how coaching has led you to this more purposeful life. Over to you, Flora.
Thanks, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Good to see you here. Welcome to this webinar. So I'm Flora Bami. I live in Zurich at the moment. I'm Greek originally, but I'm in Switzerland for 14 years, and I spent most of my life here in Geneva. So coaching for me actually was the big turning point in my life, which helped me to find direction, a new direction, and actually to find my gift and my purpose in life. So the Flora that Daniel described pre-coaching, right, before 2016, was following kind of a script that others have written for me, right? And we all do that. This is, I think, in human nature. We get born, there's a script, we follow that, we build our beliefs that they are well stored in our subconscious, and then we move forward through life, achieving, getting through life, meeting people. And I think the majority of us were kind of hyperachievers, and we want to tick the box and move on and show that we are successful. Without, though, knowing who we are, what's our gift. In coaching, we call it the essential positive quality, right? What's my gift? What's my talent? Which are my values and why am I here? And I think if you read some of my interviews and articles, my vision is really to see coaching at especially the CFD training, which for me is fundamental. And I always invite everyone, friends, colleagues, to go through that, regardless of the fact if they want to change their career. My vision is really to see CFD at school or at universities where all we need to go through. And you may ask me why? Simply because self-awareness is not something that we have been trained at school or at university or in our families, right? Or at work. Self-awareness, I think, is the number one fundamental quality journey that we need to go through, and we need to build some essential skills and capacities to be able to sit and reflect and build self-awareness. So we get stuck and we want to change things, but we don't know why and how, simply because we don't have self-awareness. So I think the big shift for me, thanks to my ACC at that time in 2016, was because my ACC invited me into a new journey of building awareness around myself, around the world, my beliefs, my talents, and why I followed this path, which actually was not really mine. And I was not going through life through my true and authentic self. So that's why coaching for me was a turning point. And I realized which was my gift. My EPQ is really caring. But this caring gift made me be the spring in others' life, right? Which I think we may all resonate, being people pleasers. We do that a lot. But then, if you remember Michelle and Daniel and Janine, at my closing speech at ACC in 2017, at this beautiful chateau outside Geneva, I said that as of today, I decided to be the spring in my life first and then others. So you're just shifting the perspective and the direction of how you manifest, you utilize, you invest your gift into the world towards others, yourself. What's the balance? And I truly believe that first we need to find this gift, who we are, and this would lead us gradually into our pure values, not the values that we had to build in order to survive into the society, right? Building our false self, how I like to call that, and then to find our purpose. And this is how gradually, by building self-awareness, always being out there, being coached. I'm being coached since 2016, and I'm coaching since 2016. So this dual relationship, I think, coaching others, but being coached at the same time, it opens up so many possibilities and great opportunities for reflection, healing, and transformation. So this is how gradually I realized that, yeah, I'm more a people's person. Finance, yeah, it was a good starting point to build some analytical skills, but I was not blossoming. And gradually all this shift and transformation started kind of showing up in other areas, in relationships, in my relationship with myself, others. And this is how today I'm full-time on well-being and my coaching. And the other thing which was for me was integral and really opened up my journey of transformation was the word integral. So as Daniel highlighted today, we're talking about integral coaching. That's why I love the methodology of Center for Coaching. We're not just our mind. Actually, we're not our mind. We're more than that. We have a body, we have a heart and spirit. And this multidimensional approach helped me to really go inwards, but then understand better my clients too. And that's why I came up and I designed the holistic well-being approach that I use in my corporate world. We need to help people through getting closer to their heart, their body, what's happening in their body, and what's my purpose, my spiritual stream, right? And of course, the mind, which is dominating the world. So, and I think the gift of coaching, that's why I'm highlighting that, is that it opens up so many opportunities, and we start seeing ourselves from a different perspective, and we keep widening our structure of interpretation. It can be that like that when I started in my coaching since 16, but now, and it's a journey, it never stops, right? This is a very beautiful, empowering, inspiring, powerful journey, which gives us meaning in life, which doesn't happen overnight, right? You may go through the CFD, but it's a gradual transformational journey that happens simply because you learn how to listen. I think active listening without judgment is one of the key powerful qualities that even I've done recently the Science of Happiness training at Berkeley University, and one of their top 10 happiness practices is listening. But do we know how to listen? I learned that through my ACC 8 years ago, right? And it's always a matter of practicing. Am I present with myself and with others, my body, my heart, my spirit, and mind fully present? So listening, I think for me, building self-awareness, asking the right questions are those qualities, skills, capabilities that we build with coaching that can transform the relationship with ourselves, with others, and can help us to find purpose and meaning in our career. And then you don't need to force. In finance, it was more structured. You just go with the flow, and the opportunities simply come because you are fully aligned with your purpose, your values, and the gift that you came here into the world. So thanks, that's my journey. I hope it helps. And yeah, as I said, the CFD, if you have the time and the capacity and the energy, just go through that regardless of your wish and why you may go through that. You may not want to change your career, that's fine, but it will shift something and then your journey will start for you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Flora. And yes, indeed, we were reflecting on that as a team today as well about, at what point do people embark on this kind of journey? And it's kind of when there's that sense of something is there that needs to change, and how can we find something that might need to change? And so there's that openness to change, which kind of emerges, but it may not be, as you say, a career. It's something that's kind of a question mark is enough for you to say, right, it's perhaps time to explore these fundamental skills. And I love what you were saying about perhaps this should be something that is taught at a much younger and more tender age to our youngsters that are coming up through the world. I'd love that to happen and to emerge. What I would like to do now is that we've been around is to ensure that, so if we can have the other Kameshni and Luciana on the screen as well. There are a couple of questions, of course, as we've been going around and you touched on it, Flora, Kameshni, you touched on it as well, and Luciana, and it's around that, that notion of how do we go about opening up possibility or widening my structure of interpretation, as we like to refer to it. I can only see Flora and myself on the screen. Does everyone else see that? Oh, Kameshni, oh, there you go. And we just need Luciana as well. I will try and pin you. Oh, there we go. Okay, super. We have everyone there. So the question is around how are we, how do you find for yourselves, perhaps initially, and then for others that you work with, around how you open up possibilities or widening structures of interpretation through the use of stories, narrative. I'm curious about that because, of course, that's fundamental. So I don't know, who would like to kick off? Luciana, would you like to kick off?
Yes, I can start. Thank you, Daniel. That's a very, very good question. And you know what? The first thing that popped in my mind was a conversation I had with Molly, who was my coach back in CFD. So I asked her, how do I get my teenager to listen to me? It's like they don't listen. And she said, how are your listening skills? And that just hit me like a wave. it hit me like a wave, because then I started to realize that when I listened to my teenager, I was mainly and mostly listening to my own thoughts and my bias and prejudice about teenagers and boys and this and that. So that was for me amazing to start with, because I started paying attention to my listening skills, to what I was listening to. And I think to answer your question, Daniel, how do we become more open? How do we become more alive in different possibilities? Is by paying attention, to start with, to ourselves. We observe what happens when we listen, when we interact. If there is any misalignment, almost all of you guys spoke about aligning, the head, the heart, the body. So our actions and our thoughts and our emotions. So how aligned am I in this moment, in this relationship? So I think to start with, paying attention, observing ourselves in everything we do, actually, is how we become more aware of the other possibilities. This is a challenge, but I have more options, not just the one that I know, that I'm very familiar with, but I also have these other options and different tools that I can use in different situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Luciana. And building on what you said as well, there's that notion of the practices that you use, and you mentioned conscious breathing, which is something fundamental. And I go back to there's a lovely little video clip on YouTube of Djokovic, who's talking about that as being the foundational practice. He says, if you do anything, just do that as something that will bring you back to center. If you can practice that, and it helps you, as you said, to bring you into alignment. Yeah. Thanks, Luciana. Kameshni.
Thanks, Daniel, and thanks, Luciana. That I also found that the self-observation techniques, using it on myself and using it with my coachees, was really, really powerful, because in that process of self-observation, it actually really, really brings to the fore, where is my focus? What I keep focusing on, and how would I like to change that? Is that where I'm focusing on, the things that I'm focusing, is that really serving me? How is that making me feel in the moment? And how is it actually transforming where I want to be? One of the things that I found incredibly powerful was the narratives that we used and the metaphors, because, and Gay will know this, that one of my coachees decided to tattoo her representation of a metaphor onto herself. And I just thought that was incredible, because that was a reminder for her constantly that, within chaos, she can bring herself towards herself, and she could create a rhythm that she could find for herself. And it led me to think about my metaphor and my narrative that I had created with my coach. And if you go to my LinkedIn page, you will see that I have a picture of water lilies in a pond. And it really represents the navigation of muddy water to emerge into something beautiful, abundant, something new, something different. And I think using narratives, making it very much a part of who we are, also becomes quite a great reminder of we are more than what we thought we had capacity to be.
Yeah, it's sensing into that. Wow, Kameshni, that tattoo. Now that's like next level. Can you share what the narrative was that she tattooed on her?
Yes. So she was navigating a lot of chaos and trying to find some structure, or just like brings herself towards herself. And she kept describing that there was this, it felt like the pendulum that was just going out of kilter. It was just going in quite far out. And we eventually came up with this metaphor of a metronome,
Okay.
of how you can actually create rhythm and you control the rhythm. And so she had a metronome, but with in the background, a form of a pendulum, sort of the metronome superimposed on the pendulum. It was beautiful.
That's
It is
amazing.
beautiful.
Yes, no, I can just see the metronome. Yeah. You're flipping the pendulum on its head. Okay.
Exactly.
Amazing. Oh, cool. Thanks so much, Kimmage. Flora, from your side, yes, I'd love to hear from your side too.
I will focus on choice, right? So in neuroscientists, they say that we have 60 to 70,000 of thoughts every day, and 90% of them are the same, and the majority of them are negative, right? So we're just going in autopilot. So when we build self-awareness and we pause and reflect and observe ourselves, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And where in my body? This is where the shift starts, because you know. And then you can choose. And as both ladies said, okay, does this thought serve me? Are those the thoughts that would lead me into the vision that I have, this career, this life, how I want to manifest and to be out there in the world and how to show up in the world? If the answer is no, then okay, what do I need to change? New thoughts. So how this, by pausing, reflecting, but actually really focusing on the body, because the body always knows best and it shows us where we are stuck, right? So building this intimate relationship with the body and always dropping to the heart, see what's humming, and then choose, right? This is what I love about coaching and self-awareness. It gives my power back, and I have agency then, and I have the choice. And then this is how the narratives that we use a lot. And I still remember from my ACC a beautiful picture that Maria, my mentor at this time, used, like around detachment, right? When people say, when we're about to react and people say something, do something, and then I'm like, okay, I need to react now. This is an offense, etc. It's like they throw a stone into you. And instead of taking this stone into your heart, because this is how we feel, right? Offended and sad and disappointed. How can you imagine that this stone just falls down, like there's a wall protecting you and it doesn't even touch you? So our mind loves pictures. Our mind loves metaphors and narratives and stories. And that's why I think the way that we coach with integral coaching really hits people and it resonates quite well, because then I have my picture, I have my butterfly at the moment for me. So how can I remind myself what the butterfly would do, would say, would be, that at the moment I cannot? That's why we need this source of inspiration, which ignites our soul, I would say.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. And I love that story about that, because there's so many things that are thrown at us and we can either let them through, or as you said, there's either that kind of, having that protective barrier, or there's a lovely other one, which from Wendy Palmer, and she has like a little bowl where anybody that throws anything at you goes first into the bowl, and you can then choose if you want to take it out or not. You can leave it in the bowl and it stays there. And if it's too obnoxious, then you can leave it there. And if you feel like you would like to take it, you have the power of agency and choice. You're giving yourself that power of agency and choice. But yeah, those are beautiful ways of enabling us to see new possibilities where you can't see anything, because you just see, well, somebody's doing something which has hit me. How am I able to engage with that? So what I'd like to invite our participants is to pop any questions you have into the chat that you have for any of our speakers today. And while we're busy waiting for any questions to emerge, there are many other things which came up as you were speaking. Can you perhaps just go around and share what is your favorite practice, very briefly, while we're waiting for questions from participants? What is your favorite practice?
I can start.
Yes.
Journaling, writing is for me it's my healing practice. I do that almost every day. So, and sometimes keep writing, and so many things come on the surface.
For me, it's meditation. And I use different forms of meditation. And even while I'm writing or walking, you know, there's many ways to stay present. So I've recently started doing walking meditation in the forest, which is incredible. And so for me, that's just really, really coming into myself and really focusing on me, and also giving me an opportunity to focus on where I'm at in the present. And when you're doing walking meditation, it also really helps you notice and be more in touch with the environment. So yeah, that's what I love doing.
Thanks, Kamesh. Luciana.
For me, it's a very simple one. When I'm in the middle of say a heated conversation, or I start feeling insecure, or I feel attacked, then I put my hands on the lower part of my stomach, and I concentrate on my breathing. I just notice my breathing, and I really try to take my time in every intake and every out breath in order to stay calm. Yeah. Feet on the ground and hands on my lower tummy.
Nice. Yeah, my favorite one is, in addition to what I do in between, which is similar, which is around just focusing on my breath. So just noticing my nostrils, and, you know, can I sense the breath on my nostrils, which I do when I get alerted, but is the ABC, centering practice. So it's awareness, 5 senses, awareness of what's going on around you, what you can see, 5 things, what you can sense, 4 things, what you can hear, 3 things, what you can smell, 2 things. I still struggle with that because my sense of smell is not very developed. And 1 thing you can taste, and then finding your balance, just sensing where's my balance, and then feeding your core relax. So just going, and feeding your core, taking a deep breath in and core relax. And then, as you were saying, Luciana, to kind of feel your feet on the ground and either ground yourself. What I love about it as well, if I'm feeding, I need some energy. It's like noticing or feeding the sense of energy flowing up your spine, and then kind of, if you need a bit of awakening, adding that in, you know. So that's my favorite one. So we have a question from Ludo. From your experience, what is the biggest obstacle to initiating behavior change? Great question. Who would like to field that one first?
I'm happy to start. I think it really is linked to what I was saying earlier, that we really believe that we have a single story, and we really believe our story, and we get stuck in that story. And it's the inability to observe something different. That's quite challenging. And I worked with a coachee that presented these problems, but really was struggling to shift, or expand, or, you know, like connect to self. And for me, that was incredibly, incredibly challenging, because they really believed that it wasn't starting from themselves. The environment needed to change. And that's always challenging. That's a great obstacle.
Exactly.
When we cannot allow ourselves to change and be a little bit more flexible, I guess, you know, to explore how we can maybe create a new path.
And I think what you're saying, Greta, as well, is that the problem's out there. I'm not the problem. I've got nothing to do with the problem. The problem is them or out there, and seeing that is the biggest obstacle I see with the people that I work, when it's very difficult to shift. So it's, can I start to notice that I am an agent, and in this I am part and parcel of what needs to shift and change. So that's, you know, can be the biggest obstacle. Yeah. Flora.
I think another one that may get on the way is the mind, because yeah, we may set the intention, I want to change that, right? And I'm aware and I want to change this behavior. But then we may have high expectations that this will happen by the end of the month. So my invitation would be really to bring a lot of kindness and compassion towards ourselves when we go through change and when we try, and we have the commitment, right? Commitment is key. I want to change this behavior. I want to act this way going forward. So once I'm committed to do that, the journey may be long. I don't think it's just 21 days practicing every day, because it's like the onion, right? It's one layer, but then this may affect other beliefs in our subconscious that we may need to touch base. So really compassion. We may have some detours, go back, practice again, find other ways, what can help you on the way, right? We always ask for network of support, reminders. Always do that with compassion, love, and kindness. That's why I talk not with the mind, right? The mind will help you to build the awareness. This is what I want to do. But use your body, your heart, all the love that we need, because we do that because we love ourselves and we want to remove the layers that they don't serve us anymore.
I love that as well. So almost that kind of sense of, can I give myself permission to accept that everything that you've said? Yeah. That's Luciana.
Well, I would say that it depends. I mean, we're all very different, right? So I guess that my obstacles might not look nothing like your obstacles when trying to change a pattern of behavior or a way of thinking. So I guess I would go back to myself. I guess for me, it was about patience. You know, it's perhaps I was in a hurry to see results when something was turning difficult. So yeah, patience, and I would add to what Flora was saying before, is being kind to myself. Sometimes it's quite difficult to give ourselves some space, some time, and say, okay, this is, you know, a new habit that we're trying to incorporate. It's going to take a while before we rewire all of those connections in the brain. And so yeah, I think that's it for me. I think it's the obstacle is being patient and kind to myself.
Thank you so much. And Hayley, you have a question. I'm just aware that we also almost at the half hour at 6:30 here in Switzerland. And my invitation there is perhaps in the final slide that I have to share, which is around engage with the Coaching for Development program, and you'll see how you will connect those 3 nuggets of knowledge to transform ourselves. Or we're very happy to have a conversation about that, but that indeed all the things that we have spoken about are elements in which we engage with, that we cultivate, that kind of notion of becoming more aware of ourselves that you all spoke about, that self-awareness capability, and then building in with kindness and compassion the capacity to be able to practice new things with a guiding light, which is around the narrative, our story, but holding that in a space in which we can actually engage with change. I assume that many of you will probably have to go. Thank you very much for coming. I just want to share one last thing on my slide here, which is just something that Tamila put together, which is the question, are you ready? If you have not yet done Coaching for Development, we have our next course, the final one for 2024, which is starting on the 4th of September. There are some places left. So if you would like to have a conversation about that, please reach out to one of the team who are here today. And without further ado, I would love to thank you guys so much for taking the time, for preparing, for reflecting on what it is that we have been speaking about today. Thank you everyone for joining us and sharing in this exploration, which every time, as I said, I learn something new. So hopefully you all learned something new and saw different ways of being and operating in the space. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next session. So perhaps if we just go around quickly from our speakers just to say goodbye. Flora.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for being here and listening. Thanks Daniel and Janine and Michelle for the gift in my life with the coaching. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thanks, Flora. Commissioner.
Thank you. I want to echo the appreciation for the Center for Coaching and for the leaders of the Center for Coaching and all the mentors that we've had the pleasure of engaging with, and the entire team. I think hosting events like this really allows us to delve deeper into our coaching experiences, share it and learn from each other. So thank you for setting this up, and I look forward to attending many more of these. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Luciana.
Yeah, thank you to you, Daniel, and to everyone in Center for Coaching. I love stories. I think stories are amazing, an amazing way to connect, to learn, to interact. And it was really nice to listen to you ladies talk about your experiences. And I hope all the participants here are inspired to embark on this beautiful journey. It is a remarkable one indeed. So thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks again, everyone. And thank you all, and have a wonderful evening. And please keep in touch.
Thanks,
Okay.
Daniel.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.